So yeah, I'm super excited. I think I know that one at least. I've picked
Yep.
one. And hit that start streaming button. Now that it's ready, hit that go live
Mm-hmm.
button.
Yeah.
And 3, 2, 1. And we're live here on Facebook. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land, and also my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing?
Doing good. Long week. Covering for some folks that took some much needed vacation, and also one coworker who was going way off site down to one of our warehouses in Southern Illinois. So covering down for some employees led to a long week, but at the end, the bank account will like it. We'll like what came out of this week. And but yeah, and also we can't forget about welcoming the folks too that are watching us on the YouTube.
Yeah. So,
Sorry about that.
Rich, my 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 baby moved to the basement.
Really? She moved to the basement. Wow. How's she taking it? Is
She did
she
great.
liking it?
She loves it and she's doing great, but she lives in the basement. My baby's too young for that. I'm kidding, but only a little.
Well, no. That guest room was almost set up like a kid's room.
Yeah, and it is. So it's exciting. Mm, baby has moved into older baby's old room. So we're yeah, and he's doing great with it. So
You knew this day would be coming
I
sooner or later,
know
Mike.
you can't let the baby live in the closet forever,
No, you can't.
unless his name is Harry Potter, in which
Mm.
case he lives in a closet under the stairs. Right? Isn't that how that works?
I've never gotten into the Harry Potter series.
I'm surprised your wife has not made you sit down and watch that. That seems like something
No.
like it seems like a kind of a double-edged thing. One, either her parents were the type that didn't let Harry Potter fly in their household, or two,
They did not.
okay, see, and that's what I kind of figured. And mine didn't either, but I just got like my wife, she enjoyed it. So then I watched all of them in 1 week, and then
No,
after what?
she tried to get me into the Fantastic Beasts
So,
series.
so she's into the Fantastic Beasts, but not the Harry Potters.
No, I think she likes the Harry Potters. I'm saying I've never seen the Harry Potter movies.
I mean, we have them all on streaming. I think you have access. I think it's on
Yeah, I think
that
we
other one
probably do.
too.
It's just I've never seen them, and I don't have an interest in seeing them. That's all.
I think yeah, but I'm just saying, like, you can.
Maybe we need to remedy that. Anything else, Mike? Is the Mario Kart season started up
Yeah,
yet?
that started this. Well, kind of. It did,
Kind of.
but it didn't. I mean, it's complicated.
Mm,
We'll go with
gotcha.
it's
We'll finally
complicated.
find out about more about that in our quick hits
Yeah.
when you give the esports update for Ogboji. So, Michael, we got a little bit of a show to talk about. We got we're going to be going into the NASCAR corner and looking at the Cubs this week. Just the Cubs in the MLB. What else are we going to be talking about, Mike?
We are going to be talking about the UFL. We're talking football again, as that is quickly approaching. We got a couple of weeks before we have to get to that, and then we're gonna also talk about Mass Singer's back.
Yes, the Mass Singer is back.
Let's go.
All right, Mike.
You guys,
Yep.
you guys all missed it in the pre-show that while Rich and I were sitting here talking and getting stuff ready. I totally admitted we are a Masked Singer podcast that paints itself as a paints itself as a as a sports podcast. So
Yeah, because when Mass Singer is going on, that's at least a good quarter of our show talking about that.
yeah, it's yeah, we could, yeah, I love that show. It's great. Okay, But Rich, all that and more. But what's it time to do?
Mike, why don't you go ahead and roll that intro?
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. Okay, Rich, before we get into the meat of the show, we got to talk about poll questions. This week's poll question, you presented frosted mini wheats versus Cookie Crisp. And you got to say it like that, right?
Okay, gotcha. I don't know if I've had either of these cereals before, but I went with frosted mini wheats.
You've never had frosted mini wheat? Bro.
I don't think I have.
Oh, so good. I almost bought
And
those
I know
today.
I've never had Cookie Crisp.
Yeah. I've had both. For me, the Cookie Crisp never really did it for me. Normally we didn't get those because as a kid, either those weren't part of what came in the, one, you couldn't get them in the bagged cereals. They didn't make that in a bagged cereal for people less fortunate. But two, and more importantly, you couldn't buy them on food stamps. So.
Gotcha. There's nothing wrong with the bagged cereal, though. Nothing wrong with bagged cereal.
And the fact that bagged cereal has mini frosted wheat, and again, I love bagged cereal mostly because it's cheap and 99% tastes exactly the same. But man, the fact that you've never had that shocks me a little bit, Rich. That seems like
I don't think I've had either.
That seems like something up your I know your family. I've known your family for almost 30 years now. Not quite, but 20 years at least. And that seems like something your family would be into. So I'm slightly surprised. Like that seems like a meal that your dad would do. But, Rich, we had 16 votes on this one.
Okay.
I also voted for Frosted Mini Wheats. And Frosted Mini Wheats won 11-5. The five people that voted for Cookie Crisp: Jordan Stroop, Brooke Rice, Matt Johnson, Danielle Marie, and Ashley Lindquist. The 11 people that voted for Frosted Mini Wheats: Mikey Hart, Pam Hendricks, Debbie Scranton Washburn, Sue Hart, Tyler Allen, Danielle Hart, Gail Welshman, Rich Hendricks, Josh Couture, Mikey O'Roderer, and Mark Mallory.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for voting. This week, it's probably going to be a landslide victory, but we still got to put it out there. We're going to go with eggs. Eggs your way. We're not going to divide it up. We'd be having polls on polls on polls if we went specific types of ways to prepare eggs. So we'll just make it eggs your way versus a smoothie. So this could be a protein smoothie, a fruit and veggie smoothie.
Not that I'm trying to mess
smoothie,
with your the way you're doing it, but I am going to ask a question.
Sure.
Are omelets included in this?
Ooh, in the poll in general?
Yeah, so you said eggs your way. If I have an egg omelet, does that count? Or are omelets separate? Because
their own. Oh, I did not have like just an omelet. So, because I was thinking with eggs, like you have your over easy, scrambled, fried, hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I will modify the poll to bring in omelet as a choice.
See, because omelets are, but see, I think omelets would be a completely different thing. Because omelets, you normally put stuff in it, and it's it's not just. So to me, eggs and omelets are different, and omelets should get their own spot. I don't know if you have room for it.
I will make. I'll make room.
The other side on that is that would a frittata
I do not have a frittata or like a quiche
Or quiche.
on the pole
Those were
either.
the other two, like frittatas and quiches. Like those are egg based dishes, but they're different enough that maybe it's worth thinking about putting them out there. I'm not saying they need to go out there. They could just be part of eggs. I'm asking the questions so we can get to the
No,
bottom.
no, no. We will. I have put the omelet. I put the omelet on the pole,
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I
and
just
I think I'll put on there the quiche or like the breakfast casserole.
oh
We'll go
yeah.
with that.
Well,
We'll go with that
egg bake is
or do you think that they're separate?
egg bake is completely different. Egg bake egg bake has bread in it, man. Did you know that egg bake has bread in it? It's like a layer of like it's. Ooh, that just makes me want to make French toast casserole.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So we'll go with a breakfast casserole being added to the poll at a later date, and omelets have replaced something. So
Okay.
just for transparency, I will take off the yogurt parfait, and
Okay.
I have taken off Danish,
Okay.
just a
I
Danish.
I
So
I can go along with that. Okay.
it's going to be a loaded matchup for these two when the omelet and the breakfast casserole come up on the poll.
Yeah.
So it'll be a hard choice, but you'll have to wait in for a couple of weeks until we get back. Till I decide to put those on the poll and get them up for vote. So this week, eggs your way versus a smoothie.
Okay.
All right, Mike. Do you see what's coming up next?
Is it a left turn?
It is a left turn, Mike. And what's after that?
Is it another left turn, Rich?
It is Mike, and tell them why.
Because we're heading into the NASCAR corner, presented as always by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out for all your sports memorabilia needs, either online at Fifth Avenue in Moline or on their eBay store. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Okay,
All
Rich.
right, Mike. Yep.
Last week, how'd they do?
All right, Mike. So we were down in Las Vegas for the Pennzoil 400. Your race winner was Kyle Larson, who was your pick. So you obviously pick up 2 points, tying the score at 3-3. My pick of Martin Truex Jr., a guy who said was a top 10 machine at Las Vegas, finished seventh. So
Yeah.
my reasoning was correct, but Kyle Larson was the driver to beat in that race once he got the lead, and once he got the lead, he never gave it up.
He 100% was the man of that race. It was crazy how good he did.
Yeah, but I gotta Ross Chastain gambling and it working, going with a two tire stop at that last pit stop of the race, going from 13 to the lead, wasn't it? A 13 like the second or third, and
Yeah.
was able to hang on and finish fourth in the race with that gamble, picking up a lot of points.
Yep.
Um,
So, Rich, speaking
yeah.
of league, or speaking of gambles and leagues, our
Mhm.
fantasy league over on NASCAR's fantasy, the link if you would like to join is in the description. Rich, overall, I'm in first. You're in second. The new Dupo 24 is in third. For Las Vegas, you won with a score of 225. I took second with 215, and the new Dupo is in third with 195.
All right. So like Mike said, there is still time to join our fantasy NASCAR league.
There's
As
36 races for the season. You missed three so far.
mhm. Still time to get those points in.
You can make it up.
All right. So Mike, between the two of us for shows, it is a 3-3 tie with your pick of Kyle Larson winning the race. You get the pick first for the Shriners Children 500 at Phoenix Raceway.
So, Rich, I think I'm gonna pick somebody that's gonna undermine your pick. Not intentional, not just because it undermines your pick, but mostly because I think he is probably the guy to beat this week. Rich, I please ask you, don't drink and drive. Just
Hmm.
do the watermelon crawl.
All
Uh,
right.
I'm going to pick Ross Chastain this week, the watermelon farmer himself.
All right, I like the pick. During our pre-show, I told you I had two people in mind, so there's no way you were gonna. It's like a 1A, 1B. Ross Chastain was probably was 1B.
Oh, okay.
The guy that I'm gonna pick, I'm gonna go with Ryan Blaney.
Okay.
Really good on the Phoenix Raceway. One of the car, I think he's also going to be a car to beat, and I think Fords, the Fords have done really well during the practice sessions at Phoenix too.
Yep. Okay. Um, Rich, anything else in the NASCAR corner?
Um, I don't. But well, I guess I got one thing. Been hearing that there's a chance that a new manufacturer, OEM manufacturer,
Oh
could be
yeah.
coming to NASCAR.
It doesn't. I mean, it's not just a rumor. I don't think it. I think that it's pretty much a done deal, and yeah, that's kind of a big deal too.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably discuss it more once a move is announced, but supposedly Honda might be getting involved
Yeah.
in NASCAR.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. It'll be interesting because Honda doesn't generally make. I don't know if they even make a V8 outside of. Yeah, I think their Formula One cars aren't even V8s. So I'm not
Hmm.
sure. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, Honda's going to be in NASCAR next year, which kind of
Well,
crazy
well,
to
no,
think about.
I've heard that being they still there's an approval process. I think they have to like submit like their chassis for their proposed chassis for review, and to where I think the from the YouTube videos that I've watched talking about it is that it might not be till 2026, not necessarily next year, because I think they're getting up to the deadline to um, provide their chassis and their chassis to see for review. But it's interesting to hear that Honda could be coming because I think last year it was Dodge is going to come back to the NASCAR ranks. So
Yeah,
Honda was a little bit of a surprise for me, and it's kind of been interesting to also watch a video to see, all right, what teams could switch over to Honda.
yeah, that would be really like I don't know what teams would. Um,
Yeah, the video that I watched this week was talking about Stuart Haas possibly going over to Honda, and my team, Trackhouse Racing, going over to Honda since they are very much a lot of the Chevy production. They're a lower tier team on the Chevy side because Hendrick Motorsports is going to get the main production and development dollars on the Chevy side, and heck, even Trackhouse gets their engines from Hendrick Motorsports. So
yeah, I could see Honda. I could see Trackhouse being the key team for Honda in NASCAR. That would make sense. I don't necessarily see Stuart Haas, but anything's possible. So, okay, with that, Rich, let's take him out.
all right, so that was the NASCAR Corner presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. You can find them in Moline down on Fifth Avenue, and they're also on eBay. Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. So, Mike, let's keep making left turns, but on the baseball diamond,
Yeah,
as our MLB preview this week is just going to be talking about the Cubs.
yeah,
Kind of what they did on the offseason. Did they do enough? Questions that need to be answered before breaking camp.
yep,
So the major additions that the Cubs did this offseason was bringing back outfielder first baseman Cody Bellinger, signing Hector Neris away from the Astros to be the key setup man, signing starting pitcher from Japan Shodi Ominga, trading for first baseman, third baseman Michael Bush, and then they signed three interesting guys that could be used as depth to minor league deals in Dominic Smith, who played for the Mets and the Nats recently, David Priolta. Last I knew, he played with the Diamondbacks. I'm not sure. Maybe I think he was with the Dodgers last year. And former Marlin Garrett Cooper. who plays the corner infield spots.
Yeah, I like a lot of the moves here. Um, the the starting pitching that has been made is huge. Getting just even getting a new starting pitcher for the Cubs is really needed this year, as they've been. I will say they've been writing a guy for years that. Don't get me wrong, I love cousin Kyle,
Hmm.
but at some point, age is going to catch up to him. Now, Kyle is by no means needs like his pitching style is such that he doesn't need that huge speed. So that's not the problem. But and if he continues to be able to paint corners like he has for years, maybe you're right. Maybe that's not a big deal. But at the age of 34, in baseball years, and especially because he started younger,
Hmm.
that's going to start causing problems, and you're going to have to start looking at that. So being able to bring in what will likely end up being our true ace for the year, with
Hey, Chicago.
whoa, sorry, that was I'm looking at the depth chart and pulling stuff up, but bringing in that left-handed arm of Imanga. Am I saying that right? I don't know.
I don't know. I thought it was a Minga.
Aminga, sure, we'll go with Aminga. Bringing him in does great things for him, and will 100% do make him much more like. I totally think he will inevitably be our ace. And it's so one of the things that I taught that we've seen in the past is that like Cubs have like pulling in Japanese players. Once you get your quote unquote your book on them, it changes like their breakoutness kind of drops off. I'm looking at guys like our biggest one, Fukudome. Like when he was on our team, his first couple of years he did amazingly well, but then as people started learning how to pitch to him, it kind of got to a point where he wasn't performing like we expected him to. The difference though is that with pitchers you only see once every 5 days. It takes longer to develop that book. Also, pitching is about deception. Always has been, right?
Hmm.
And if pitching is about deception and your pitching style will, for a long time, even like you look at guys like Kyle Hendricks who don't throw velocity, they with finesse, especially when you're different than other people in the league, that changes. Like to go from and again, I don't have all of the stats on him, but to go from having a big arm to a Kyle Hendricks completely changes the game. And that, I think, is one of those things that the Cubs are trying to set up. Because from my recollection, and again, this is just memory, Shota has an amazing, like his fastball is 300 or is 100 plus, if I remember correctly. And to go from that big of an arm to a guy that's going to throw a fastball at 89 miles an hour, like, that's a huge difference. So in the regular season, that might not seem like as big of a deal. But once you hit the postseason, which, by the way that they've improved, I kind of expect them to be playing in the playoffs. And that's where everything changes. And that difference will make a world of difference. So I'm excited for it. I'm here for it. I think they've done enough to improve to make playoffs this year.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the starting pitching, I mean, this is probably the first time in a long time, Mike, where they have depth in the starting rotation.
Yeah.
As you've got right now, the ESPN depth chart has Steele, Aminga, Tyone, Hendricks, and Jordan Wicks as your fifth rounder, as your 5 starters. But that doesn't include Javier Assad working as a swingman, and then you got 2 guys that are probably going to be in AAA in Ben Brown and Cade Horton that could come up for a cup of coffee or take a long-term spot in the rotation if somebody struggles or somebody gets hurt.
Yeah. So
we haven't had that as a positive to talk about with the Cubs in a long time.
And I would say even before, we didn't have that in 2016.
Mm-mm.
In 2016, we had 5 guys that would shut you down. We had one guy.
No, we had 4. We had 4. I think we had 4, and then it was the 5th guy was give us some eat those innings up.
Yeah, sure. But we had those 4 guys that I would argue might have been the best starting rotation in the major leagues in our lifetime. Like, legitimately.
Well, even the Wood, Pryor, Clement, Zambrano, Maddox rotation was really good.
For 1 year.
But that was a 1-year thing.
That was a 1-year thing. This was at least a 2-year thing. 2015, 2016.
Even the 17 rotation was pretty good.
Right. But again, I would still argue that when you're talking about that rotation, that 2015 to 2017 rotation, probably the best rotation. Arrieta not like having a sub-1 ERA for over a year. How about the fact that he had not lost a game in over a year?
Mm-hmm.
But our depth was nowhere. Here we have the depth. Now, the question is, do any of these guys have that 2016 shutdown?
Yeah, and for me, that's where I'm coming from with the rotation. I don't know if we have that ace. Like if you're down 2-0 or 3-0 and you need a win, or you're down 2-1 and you need to leave, and you need to have a decisive game 4, just stop the losing, or let's right the ship and leave and leave the series tied 2-2. Justin Steele maybe is that guy, but I don't. But I think a trade to get an ace could be beneficial to the team in the long run.
Let's compare to 2016. Your starters were Jake Arrieta. Number 2 is hard because Lester, Lackey, and Hendricks were all right there for who was the best, who is number 2. I think you have a 2A, 2B, 2C there situation. Kyle's overall performance, but then again, Lester's overall performance. Like,
Lester was your ace of that group.
Yeah, you're right. But Jake Arrieta, you counted on wins.
Mm-hmm.
You knew you were getting wins there. Like
John Lackey kept you in ball games. He kept you in ball games. He either dominated or he kept you in the ball games, and he got you innings.
Hendricks was the guy that changed everything when you looked at him, and when you were coming up against the Cubs in that time frame. to go from, especially when you would go from a Jake Arrieta that just was a power, nasty pitcher to a guy that would paint your corners and change your vision. In each at bat, he would make your vision change. Like,
That's true. I mean, because who started Game 7, Mike?
wasn't that Kyle?
It was cousin Kyle started that Game 7.
But that has more to do with timing than it does with direct.
Yeah. That wasn't timed out. That they were working their rotation to make that happen. But still, he was the guy that got the ball for Game 7.
Yeah.
And could have gone longer than they did, but they had a prearranged plan that if they were at this point in the game, if we have the lead or we're going in, we're going to go to John Lester.
Yeah, and it worked out, and they won, and it was great. But I see that we have depth. We have great depth. I love how deep the starting rotation goes. But the real question is, does that starting rotation have anybody that who do you giving the ball to day one?
Justin Steele.
I like it.
You see a shutdown if let's assume that they don't trade for another starting pitcher, and this is who we got plus Brown, Assad, or Kate Horton maybe needing to come up from the minors or out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
Is Justin Steele the guy I'd want to hand in Game 1? Let's say that's a wild card game where you have to win to move on.
That's
Justin
a better question.
Justin
You're in
Steele,
the wild card game, Rich. Who are you giving the ball
Justin
to?
Steele be that one game or getting that pivotal going up 1-0 in a 3-game series to know whether you're going to move on to the divisional round playoffs? It'd be Justin Steele, but if it was like Justin Steele, let's say like in the odd event, you got to go against the Dodgers. Would you feel more comfortable with Yamamoto, or would you want to have Justin Steele on the mound?
Yeah.
Or if it's the Braves, Spencer Strader or Max Fried or Justin Steele.
So here's the thing. You and I don't have a great book on Shota.
Mm-mm.
He could come out and be that guy. And by the time the end of the season comes, he's the guy that we're like, just give it to him. That's the question mark for me. I think Steele is from what I know, he is the closest thing to an ace that we have.
If you put him on other teams' rotations that are also looking to be playoff teams, would Justin Steele be your ace? Probably not.
Probably not. He'd probably be your number 2. But when you look at our rotation, our number 5 guy probably makes the starting rotation in most teams, and probably the starting 4. That's the difference.
I could see that.
Our top 6 could be starting 4s elsewhere, but our top 6, I legitimately think our top 6 starting pitchers would be starting pitchers in playoffs for almost any other team in the league. Sans the Dodgers, but that's a special case. But for most of the teams, our top 6 would be, each one of our top 6 would be in the top 4 of another team. But none of them would be an ace as of right now.
Yeah, I don't think you could take any pitcher
we have
pitcher
6
from
guys
our rotation and say that they're the ace. They would easily be the ace on any of the other playoff teams that we'll name next week.
Yeah.
Of who we think is going to make the playoffs. I don't think you could take Justin Steele and put him on another team and he would be the guy getting the opening day start or if you lined your rotation up. Yeah, or if you lined your rotation up for the playoffs, he's going to be the guy getting the ball for Game 1. He wouldn't be.
I think our top 6 starters are probably 2 through 4 guys. Anywhere else. And there's always exceptions. There's teams like Tampa, or no, Tampa doesn't do it the same way, so I don't know that I would count Tampa. But there's teams like the Orioles who might put Justin Fields as an ace.
Not this year. They got Corbin Burns from the Brewers.
I forgot they got Burns. I forgot they got him. Sorry, that's my bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's teams that, yes, each one of these guys could be an ace on somebody else's team.
All right, I got a team for you. The Twins.
Yeah, easily.
The Twins. He would probably be their ace
easily.
Of the Twins.
But okay. So with that, Rich, we'll ask the question: What do we need to answer? And I think we just talked about it. But what do we need? What's the answer before we break camp? What question?
Other than me trying to identify who's the ace or who potentially could we trade away to get that ace? The question that I got, Mike, is who's on third?
No, first.
First, third.
No, who's on first? I don't know who's on third. I don't know who's on third base. And you are right. That's the current question right now. I think Michael Busch probably.
They're thinking Michael Busch is going to be their first baseman, although he has experience playing. The Dodgers tried him out at second base to get him into the lineup, but I think he came up through the minors as like a third baseman or a first baseman.
Yeah, but I think you put Cody over at first, and then Busch at third. Right now, to me, that's what makes sense. But
yeah, I mean, they're trying to get.
But you got to find something.
Yeah, and they're giving Christopher Morel every opportunity to see for his bat. To have him over at third, but to see a highlight of a minor league game, right? It's a minor league game of him airmailing a routine throw over the first baseman's head, instead of just taking his time and getting a good accurate throw.
Yep.
So there could be some growing pains with third base, or you have a couple of those absent-minded plays where you're trying to overthink yourself. You could find Morel back at DH, and he's only going to be out in the field if somebody gets injured.
Yeah.
Or it's still not working.
I look at it, and like I said, I agree with you. The question number one for me is who's our ace? Question number two, probably third base. But, and I think we answered it, but did they improve enough for you so far?
I think they did. I really do. I think they did. And their main competition, you could probably make a good case that they didn't really get much better.
Yeah. I'm not going to say this week that I think they win the division. Because next week is when we put our predictions for the division out.
That's next week. But look at Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh's Pittsburgh.
They're still rebuilding.
Reds are the Reds.
I think the Reds are a team on the rise, but that's also a question for next week.
But they're on the rise. But have they risen? There's a big difference between on the rise and risen.
Yeah.
And so that's
did the Cardinals do enough to turn around and improve? They signed some veteran guys to round out their rotation, but the guy they're projecting to be their ace could be starting the year on the injured list in Sonny Gray.
Yep.
And the Brewers traded away their best pitcher in Corbin Burns.
And we stole their coach.
And we got their coach.
We got their manager. Like, those things in and of itself, like, man, next week is going to be fun. We also, come back next week and see what we think, where we think the Cubs end up in the division, and the over-under on wins for the Cubs next week. Folks, that's going to be a great week. What's up?
Yeah. No, I finished your thought there. It's okay.
No, I am, man, it's going to be crazy to look at the division. Do you want to add what the North looks like next week as well?
Yeah. We with the divisions, we can go 1 through 5 on the entire Central Division.
Or Central, yeah. Sorry, Central. I'm
Yeah,
thinking football.
but yeah, I mean, overall, this team has great depth.
They
A
do.
lot of guys on the infield can play more than one position.
Except we're
In
still
the case of
lacking on.
Christopher Varell, maybe not one position great, but he can play multiple positions.
Yep.
I mean, because I think the only guy on that infield or on that entire team other than catcher, Dansby Swanson is the only guy that doesn't typically play another position, as you could rotate in all the outfielders and
Yeah.
you could rotate the outfielders are interchangeable. You got Bellinger who can slide up to first base, Horner that can slide over the short
I don't like
if
seeing.
needed.
I don't like seeing, and it might just be, it might not have anything to do with the season openers, but I don't
Mhm.
like seeing Patrick Wisdom, Nick Madrigal, and Ian Happ all in some way, shape, or form out or
Day to
day
day.
to day. Those hurt, especially
Yeah.
with those three. Those three are huge.
Yep.
Hopefully, it has
But
more to do with it. It's preseason than, or that it's spring training than it does actual injury. But
Yeah,
there's still
but that
depth
could
enough.
give you an opportunity to let Alexander Canario or Pete Crow Armstrong get onto the opening day roster if one of them has to play left field because Ian Happ isn't ready for the start of opening day, or
Yeah.
even Owen Casery, who's looked good this spring, getting an opportunity. I think Casery's not quite ready. I think I think him and Crow Armstrong probably need more time in AAA,
Yep.
but they're knocking on the door, and it, if anything, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad we don't have a set in stone DH, as that's the only way this guy's going to be in the lineup every day is as the DH. So with that depth in the minors of all of it being outfielder, all of our top prospects being outfielders, I'm glad that we have our DH isn't a guy that's set in stone, or at least right now it's not.
You
They're
don't think
trying to get
Mervis
Morel out
is?
to the field.
You don't think Mervis is a solid?
Right? Yeah. Right now, I'd almost have to give Patrick Wisdom and Matt Mervis almost borderline being 4A players.
Okay.
Too good for AAA, but not good enough for the majors.
Yeah, and
Or from what I've seen so far. I mean, Wisdom can hit them. Wisdom maybe has a potential to hit 20 to 25 home runs, but he doesn't necessarily play the field very well, and he strikes out a lot.
yeah. But that's
Mervis really didn't show enough to stick with the team when we needed a first baseman last year.
But Rich, you and I both know that we're old men when it comes to baseball, and strikeouts mean something to us as opposed to modern day players. With that, let's leave the diamond and head to the gridiron as we talk the UFL coaching staffs and who has whom. So I think we're just going to go with head coaches this week, as we're at 42 minutes into the podcast.
Yeah, we won't go into their individual position coaches. So, Mike,
Arlington has Bob Stoop.
Bob Stoops,
I think
veteran
this is the
college
biggest
coach.
name in. Yeah, I would. Maybe not, but one of the top names for head coaches. Bob Stoops, huge for them. That should help them out and get their kids going in the right direction. Who do you want to pull up as your next coach to talk about?
Let's just go right on the same page. Birmingham Stallions, Skip Holtz.
Yeah.
I recognize the last name, but not necessarily. I know he's Lou Holtz's son. He's probably he's coached in college, if I remember right. So yeah, veteran college coach again, coaching in their league.
Yeah, family ties do big things, and I think he's earning his way up. By the way, I do love the opportunity that we're able to give some of these guys the opportunity to be a head coach. that maybe this becomes a preview. That I think this is where that head coaches are where this league is going to benefit most people most. That head coaches here are going to be given the opportunity when it comes to the NFL. Speaking of which, we'll go with the Renegades with C.J. Johnson.
Yeah, I've never heard
Roughnecks,
of
sorry.
CJ Johnson. So, and there really isn't any guys on his coaching staff that really pop out of, oh, that's where that guy's coaching now, either. So that maybe he was a guy that coached the Houston Roughnecks in the USFL last year.
Well, he was a head coach for 4 years at Tulane.
Okay.
And then he's also spent 33 years as an assistant coach, including in the NFL, other colleges, and high school. So, kind of one of those guys, lesser known, but his time at Tulane is really what got him to where he needed to be.
All right, the DC Defenders have Reggie Barlow. I remember Reggie Barlow more as a player, as a defensive player in the NFL than as a coach. But a name does stick out to me on that staff being Greg Williams, the guy that was famous for getting suspended with the Saints for Bountygate.
Yeah. So again,
being their defensive coordinator.
And I think two of the next three names are names that are gonna stand out quite a bit. The first is gonna be Memphis Showboats with John DeFilippo.
Yeah.
That's a huge get for them. And I think, again, this is one of those having guys who, having been an offensive coordinator and gotten interviews in the NFL, but never landed that job, going to give him the opportunity to take the reins of a team and make something of it. And this is why I think it's a big deal for these guys in the UFL. I almost called it the XFL again.
Yeah, the Michigan Panthers, Mike Nolan. He was a former head coach, defensive coordinator with Baltimore, and got the head coaching job with the San Francisco 49ers. I think he was the coach of the Niners before Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Before Harbaugh got there.
And I think the biggest name when it comes to head coaches in the UFL, Wade Phillips, San Antonio.
Yep.
I'm repeating what I've said. This is a great place where these guys can dust off the tarnish, take the tarnish off their reputation, and start to shine up and look good to come into the NFL. Rich, who's our last head coach?
Anthony Bright, of St. Louis. Anthony Bright was, I think if I remember right, he was a tight end in the league, but they've got some name-worthy coaches that you'll probably recognize names of. Leroy Glover, former defensive lineman.
Yep.
From the Saints. Bruce Gradkowski, he was a career journeyman backup quarterback in the NFL as an offensive coordinator. And those are the only two that really stood out to me with St. Louis. I think St. Louis is, on just name recognition, has some good coaches there.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what he can do. He's got, again, might not have the same name recognition for your head coach, but as they talk, the UFL talks about that they are the proving ground and the training ground that guys that don't get drafted. I think more importantly, it's for head coaches that don't get jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I respect that argument. I like it, but I mean, for guys that Wade Phillips is probably a guy that I don't know if he's just a football lifer. With his age, he's probably not going to get a head coaching job again, but he's just a football lifer. It's a way for him and probably even Bob Stoops as a guy that can keep their names and keep doing this as a way to teach the game to the next generation. Maybe not as taking this type of job so that they can keep their name out in the limelight.
Yeah, but DeFilippo
maybe use this as a chance to get a head coaching job. But yes, DeFilippo or even Anthony Bright could be seen as a way that I'll show you that I can lead a team and I
Right.
can be more than just a position coach. I can be an offensive coordinator or maybe even a head coach.
Again, and I'm gonna make a statement, and this is gonna be one of those things that kind of I this is probably one of those things that I'm gonna say that you're gonna look at me and say I don't think so, but I'm
Okay,
gonna say it anyway.
go ahead.
Let's say UFL does great this year. They make it the entire season. Next year, they do some expansion. They add a team. If you are Eric Bieniemy, you're still.
I thought that's where you were going. I
You're
knew
still.
that's where you were going to
But
go.
you're still
That's
waiting
okay.
for a head coaching opportunity.
Hmm.
And the NFL, obviously, nobody wants you for some reason. Why not? Why not take the opportunity? Coach a team to a championship in their first year in the league. Prove that you can do it. Is that the push that he needs? Could that be the push that he needs to get him over the top so that he can be that head coach in the NFL?
It could be. I think for Bieniemy, I think I would take a college job over an X or a UFL coaching job
Yeah,
to
but then
prove
you
that
got to
if
deal with
that's the only way
recruiting.
that I can be a head coach.
Then you got to deal with recruiting. And recruiting, I don't want to be a recruiter.
Hmm.
That's you do
Yeah,
more
because
time.
right now he's the offensive coordinator at UCLA, I think it is. UCLA. UCLA, one of the UCLA or USC, I think, is where he decided to go instead of going to be trying to find an offensive coordinator job with the in the
Yeah,
NFL.
he's the offensive coordinator for the UCLA Bruins. Wow, I
So
didn't
he'll,
realize he had done that.
yeah. So he's going to be in the Big Ten, but with a UCLA team that hasn't made a lot of noise in a long time. Haven't made a
Ah,
case as a great college program in a while.
he should have taken it. He should have been. He should have been the St. Louis head coach. Okay. Well, Rich, with that, let's get into our quick hits as we are running close on time.
Okay, gotcha. So, probably not much time to talk on this, but Caitlin Clark on last Sunday became the all-time NCAA scoring champion, both men's and women, passing Pete Maravich.
Pete didn't have the 3-point line.
Nope, no, he did not.
And if you look at people that are more nerdy about sports than you and I have gone
Hmm.
through and mapped out every shot ever taken by Pete Maravich.
Hmm.
I don't know how we have the stats, but we do. And it turns out if they had the college 3-point line for men, he's over 5,000 points.
Mm.
Does that change your feeling on this?
I think it would, because then she wouldn't have that record of saying that she's the all-time scoring leader.
Yeah. So I still think it's a great accomplishment.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
play,
even if you factor
play
that in,
you play in
using
the
that
era
argument,
that you play in.
yep.
Joe Montana doesn't have the all-time passing record. Why? Because he played in an era where the pass was used to open up the run. That's the whole idea of the West Coast offense. You run to open up the pass, and you pass to open up the run. Joe Montana doesn't have that record, but still the greatest of all time. Pete Maravich doesn't have the record. Caitlin Clark does. You play in your era. Also, anything else on that story, real quick?
Nope,
Okay.
not really.
Um,
Let's continue to kick the can down the road in talking about college football 25. The EA Sports is going to be releasing here pretty soon.
yep.
And Mike, anything going on in Mario Kart League of Legends before we got to give a spoiler alert and talk the Masked Singer?
We started practices. That's about it. We have a week of spring break, so we're not going to do we're supposed to have a match this week. We're going to have it next week instead. I'll have 2 matches for both Mario Kart and League next week that we'll end up talking about. With that, spoiler alert. we have a spoiler alert as we are going to talk about The Masked Singer. If you are interested at all in this show, you probably want to leave, and if you haven't seen it, you might want to leave and then come back later to finish this episode. If you don't care about the show, but you like listening to Rich and my voice, you can stick around, or you can leave. Either way, we are going to talk about The Masked Singer. We are going to give spoilers. That's just what we are going to do. It happens. It's a thing. Deal with it. Okay, with that, Rich, new season started. We got plenty of stuff to talk about. I know who one of these guys is, and you can't convince me otherwise. The first thing we got to talk about is with season 11, I think is what they're saying this is, right?
Yeah, it's something up there.
With season 11, we have a new host to talk about. Or a new panelist.
Nicole Scherzinger is on Broadway and is taking this season off and maybe even future seasons. And they brought in international pop star and icon, but her name is escaping me right now.
Something or Rita Ora.
Okay. I mean, she was a star, I think, she did the British version of The Masked Singer, if I remember correctly, from reading about the new panelist when it was announced. So, so far, I like it. She seems to be a good panelist, not as, maybe still getting used to her co-hosts or co-panelists on how to interact with them. And having the friendly banter, but she'll get there.
Yeah. Man, I thought she did all right. It was weird not having Nicole, but it's good. I'm glad that they replaced it with somebody that actually has singing ability, because it's really hard when. I mean, I find her annoying in general, but Ken can't hold a tune if you wrapped it in a bow and put it in a bucket and sealed it tight. He'd still somehow lose that. And
he's there for comic relief.
And McCarthy, Jenny McCarthy, just she's not that good either at singing. She's there because they can't get rid of her, I think.
She's there because she's very well known in pop culture. She's there. Yeah. She's got the name recognition. She's there for name recognition. And Robin Thicke is very much in the music industry, more as a producer than a singer. But he's a singer.
Yep.
But he can hold his own as a singer as well.
Yep.
So not a name that's known very much in the States, but on the international level, she is well known. I think it's a good addition to it.
Okay.
So, Mike, this week you had the Goldfish. Probably not in this order of performance, but you had the Goldfish, the Ugly Sweater,
the Lovebird,
the
Starfish, and the book.
All right. So, who was your favorite costume of the night, of the evening?
I really liked. I liked the book. I thought it was a fun-looking costume. I really liked the Ugly Sweater, though, too. Those are
okay. Yeah, I liked the book, too. We were half expecting, all right, is the big costume a ruse, and is the worm going to be the one singing, portraying the one singing and not the mustachioed book.
Yeah.
Heart of the book. So we were almost expecting that, but it didn't happen. The worm was just there. But I mean, I also kind of liked the Ugly Sweater as well.
Yeah.
I was a little concerned that he was going to be a stationary person since they wheeled him out on that cart. But it was nice that he got out of he was walking the stage, working the stage during this entire performance, and then but I did notice during the panel review and their guessing, he was sitting on a stool.
Yeah.
So it's obviously a very veteran performer.
I think the Ugly Sweater did great. The Lovebird did okay. Better. The Goldfish did quite well. I think the Goldfish and the Ugly Sweater are the top two in this. I think the Starfish was not great, and the Lovebird the Lovebird did okay. I'm okay with the Lovebird, and then the book sucked. Intentionally or not, the book was terrible, and so bad that they were laughing at him, like legitimately laughing at him. And then they were talking before they even got to guesses. They were talking. I know that man. I can't believe and they like legitimately during the song they're like, "Oh, Kevin, it's so funny." And yeah, it was Kevin Hart, and he quit because he sucked so bad. He said that it was a prank on
Nick Cannon,
which they did preview that he's looking forward to pranking one of his best friends with singing the song and blah blah blah. That was part of the clue package. I 100% believe I know who the Starfish is.
All right, Mike, and who do you think it is?
And put it in the book, Rich. My prediction: Starfish is Melissa McCarthy.
All right. You have some strong arguments with her short stature of being 5'2", according to IMDb. The streaming as part of the plaques of The Little Mermaid being mostly a streaming release rather than a theatrical release.
But more importantly,
and also
Gilmore Girls. People love that show. They stream it like crazy. So I 100% think that's Melissa McCarthy. Other than that one, do you have guesses for anybody else?
I really think that the goldfish is Leah Michele. If I could hear a song ballad, that would lock it in for me. But she performed a wide array of musical styles and songs when she did Glee for the Fox network, and she's also a Broadway star. So but when I said it before, the panel also confirmed it of them saying, "Yeah, I think this could be Leah Michele." Having that, but my wife said, "No, we need to see her sing a ballad. She has that bravado voice, a lot like Barbra Streisand." So
I'm trying to remember, was her clue package the one that talked about how
a strong she was a child star and got it really exposed really early on as a star and had to take step back. So that also made me think of Hilary Duff.
Was the Lovebird, and again I don't did the
Lovebird I think had the involves his clue package of being on the small screen a lot.
That was a guy. I remember that now.
Yeah, that was a guy.
Okay. I'm gonna throw this guess out for the goldfish.
Okay.
Dakota Johnson.
Okay.
In the clue package, she talked about the darker side or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it talked about how she did something on the darker side. I can't remember exactly what it was, but to me, it felt like a nod to 50 Shades of Grey.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
Okay.
Nothing else to me. There was a thing where they're like, and then she became an instant star or something like that. I don't remember exactly how it worked, but it talked about I don't, and this is why I feel guilty even saying it, but it talked about how she talked about how she didn't feel or she had done she did something on the dirty side or darker side or risque side, something like that. And that's what, to me, said Dakota Johnson.
Okay. All right, Mike. So when the show comes back next Wednesday on Fox, if you watch it live, you're going to have all new performers. As I said, we're going to meet the contestants in Group B.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're not going to continue on and whittle down Group A before we get new performers. So I don't know if it's going to be an every other week. They're going to bounce between A and B or go A, B, C before they round back around
One, two,
to
three.
Group
It'll be
A.
you and me.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Is the group, this was I thought it was a good, well-rounded group, not a, it would have been, before the book performed for me, it would have been hard to identify which one went home. I thought there was
Star.
a clear winner. I
No,
thought there
Star
was a
goes
clear
home.
winner.
So yeah, you're right. I don't know that the Star definitely goes home because the way that the show works, but I think the Star ends up going home.
Okay. So you're thinking the Star is the next one to go home
If they
in
go
Group A,
off who the worst was.
but they don't. It's who was your favorite performance of the night?
Right.
It's not
Star
who
is
do you think deserves to go home?
Star is by far and away the worst though. So
Okay. Now that Kevin Hart outed himself
yeah.
and
Good
played it
riddance.
off as a prank and just took the mask off.
Yeah. Yeah. Um Yeah.
So
By the
yeah,
way, there are
that is our
11
Masked Singer
contestants.
recap.
There are
11 this year?
11 contestants, 22 Grammy nominations,
Okay.
11 platinum albums, 33 Teen Choice Awards, 108 million records sold, 7.1 billion Spotify streams. 1.7, I'm sorry, 1.7 billion Spotify streams, 326 film appearances.
Mm.
So
Very interesting cast. So still the show keeps on going on strong. I hope the show keeps on going and going and going, and they can keep finding people that want to come on the show, whether it's just for fun, like Kevin Hart, or to say that they've done the show, or because they're really not known as for singing or a singing star that you forgot about
yeah,
because of how long they've been in the industry, just to do something new. Um, I don't see this show wearing off on me to where I'm lose interest or I'm just waiting for this show to finally end because they've worn out because the competition or the product has just gotten so watered down because so many people have done this show.
yeah. But I've loved it so far. I'm looking forward to um, what to do for the next. I'm looking forward to the next group. I agree with you. This show seemingly stays fairly fresh. I think I think that they try to make the they change the rules every time, which bothers me. I'd like to see them sink into one rule set that kind of keeps it normalized. But outside of that, I'm game. So,
Yeah, as long as they stop the whole the queen of the battle, to where you could, in theory, perform once and then you're once or twice, and then hey, you're in the finals. You've secured your spot in the finals.
yep, yep.
And
Okay.
I'm asking so many people after just performing one time.
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree with that. So,
All right, Mike. So that is our show. Um, you can catch The Masked Singer 7 o'clock on Fox or the next day on your streaming service of choice if you record it, or on Hulu.
yeah,
So Mike, people are listening to us here either on Facebook or on YouTube, but they just want the audio file and want to listen to us at their own convenience. Mike, where can they find that?
you can find that wherever you get your streaming. Spotify, Apple, Amazon Podcast, along with iHeartRadio and YouTube Podcast. Rich, they're watching us or they're listening to us in the car. They want to see our pretty faces. What are the two places that they can do that at?
Well, Mike, you can find the live stream on Facebook, or you can also find us on YouTube as well.
Yep.
Also, make sure to go over to our Facebook page, Fans of Balls and Sticks, or Balls and Sticks, so that you can find our weekly poll question, which again, this week's poll will be eggs versus smoothie.
And
Mike, okay, go ahead. Do we have any show shout-outs
no
before we
show
do?
shout-outs. But if you want to participate in those, check out our live stream on Facebook when we go live. With that, let's roll the outro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.